And we should be live. I'm just gonna give it a minute until I can see that you guys are indeed in the chat. And welcome everyone. Apologies, it's not the best angle. I'm just trying to hide the camera away because I will be kicked out of here. They never really like people to film into the train stations. Hi Tish. Sound good, perfect. Hi Natalie, welcome everyone. You guys know the drill. Before anything else, I'm gonna tap the microphone to check that you can hear the 3 taps, to check that it's all connected properly. So let's do that now. Right, you should have heard the 3 taps. Let me know in the chat whether that worked. You like the sweater? Nice. I did not buy it. It's from the, I think I've mentioned it to you before, in my building, in my former nursing home, we've got a charity rack. When any of us, the 50 of us, want to get rid of items of clothing, before to give it to the actual charities, we put it on the rack, see if anyone wants to pick it up. So I've picked it up from my charity rack. Weak sound from the microphone. Barbara, it might just because it's a bit loud around me. What do you think, guys? Do you think the tap was a bit weak? I can double check, but it might just be because it's very loud, all the train noises and stuff. Our Pisa says it's good. Well, we'll see once we get out if you think it's a bit weak. Okay, let's try again. Let me know whether you've heard the tapping. I think it's just a bit noisy because of the trains and stuff, but let me know. Hi Wendy, welcome Catherine, nice to see you here. We've got about 4 minutes before to start. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. Let us know in the chat where you're tuning from. You've heard it, but just barely. That's not normal. You should be able to hear it well, but it's probably just the background noises. We'll see as we get out. If you hear any wind noises, let me know. Then that's wrong. Hi Trista. Hi Herbie. Welcome. Let me give you a glimpse of the view. Oops. You can hear me fine. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Laurie. And welcome, Tariq. Eileen, welcome everyone that just joined. We've got a few minutes up. A few minutes before to start. You know the drill. As we are in the station, I'm going to be semi-silent because I don't want to be kicked out before I show you Paddington. Hi, Sarah. And we've got 3 minutes to go. I sound like I'm waiting for a train. We're not waiting for a train. We've got 3 minutes before it's officially time to start. So we'll kick off at 5 p.m. UK time. Tish, it's not here, it's every train station. I know exactly why, because I've done some training with the police about when I used to do Christmas market. It's because if you wanted to commit an act of terror, you'd probably come with a camera ahead on and film the exit and stuff like that. So that's why they don't. I mean, anyone planning that wouldn't come with a gimbal and a microphone. They'll try to be discreet, but the securities are told to challenge anyone filming, basically. Hi, Shinri. Welcome. I mean, some people can film, but you have to apply for proper permission and stuff. I have done some filming myself for, I think I've told you before, the Slow Horses, you know, the show on Apple TV. I was filming right there. I was just an extra running across the platform. I've never actually seen it. I don't have Apple TV. Right, let's see what time it is. 1 minute to go. So welcome everyone. If anyone was completely new to me, if you don't know what's happening, I'm Natalie and we're going for a live walk in Paddington as well as Little Venice. Someone's bought me a coffee. I don't know who that is. I've seen an email, so thank you guys. That's very, very much appreciated. Right, is it officially time? 1 minute still. Before we go much further on, before we get kicked out of here, let me show you something. I've got a little treasure in my pocket. This is Paddington Station on the 2-point coins. That's the Brunel commemorative 2-point. This is. I think it has a value of £4, but that's the type of thing. If you sell it, you pay for the stamp and then you lose your benefit. But that's the commemorative. So this is Paddington Station on the coin. Let me show you. So that's the structure from Brunel. I'll show you again. You can probably recognize it. Oops, I need the camera to focus. There we go. So that's Paddington Station. I've got more little treasures in my pocket, but I'll show you in a moment. Is this the main station into London? As Barbara is asking. Well, not the main one. We don't have such thing as a main one. It's not the busiest one. The busiest one would actually be I think in terms of numbers of people, it's Liverpool Street, but in terms of numbers of passengers, it's Waterloo. So the main ones are Liverpool Street, Waterloo, Victoria, and Paddington. Although Victoria and Waterloo are not on the Monopoly board, on the Monopoly board you've got Marylebone on French 3rd Street for some reason. Anyway, it is officially time to start, so let's go. The very reason why I was in the station here, it's because I wanted to show you a statue of a little bear that was left here on the platform, and that was found by a family, a fictional family, of course. There he is. So this is Paddington. So the bear is, of course, named after the station, not the other way around. Although I would like it to be the other way around. And let's make a move, because otherwise we're gonna be told off. And we also have a little Paddington bench over here. It is in the shape of an open book. So that's quite a nice little sorry, when I stop talking, it's because there are staff around. That's a nice little souvenir of Paddington. Right, let's get out and I'll show you some more statues actually. So Paddington, the trains themselves, it's mainly the Great Western Railway. Although you've got the new Lizzie line, you know, the Elizabeth line, it goes from here as well. So this is the see the purple sign, that's the Lizzie line. So that goes all the way from here to Reading and stuff. It's quite expensive though. I've been wanting to take you to Reading for a while, because we could talk about Amelia Dyer and baby farmers and stuff, but it's like 26 quid to go to Reading. That's why I'm now going to Dublin, because I was going to take you to Reading. I was like, you know what, 26 quid to go to Reading, I might as well spend 29 on fly to Dublin. But yeah, one day I'll take you down to Reading. And on the other side, of course, you can go all the way down to Abbey Wood and all that. Now, all this side of the station, it's fairly new. It's been all redone for the Lizzie line. And let's go and face the rain, if indeed it is still raining.
Oh no.
Oops. It might not be. I don't see many umbrellas, so let's see if I need to get mine out. So the Great Western Railway, by the way, they were... Oh yes, it is raining. Let me get the umbrella out. 1 second. Brunel built it to go down to America. Yes, you've heard this right. In his head, he was doing a train to go all the way down to Bristol, and then in Bristol you'd get on a ship like the Great Western, and you'll be able to go all the way down to America. So that's quite a journey. Oh, it's a bit chilly now. I should have potentially taken my scarf. Oh well. Is £300 too much? Too much for what, Tish? I think I've missed something in the chat. What are we talking about? Now, there's another statue some of you might have seen online that popped up fairly recently here in Paddington. It is the Wild Table, I think it's called, by artist Gillian Mark. If you followed many of my tours before, I'm sure you've seen some Gillian Mark before. They are those, it's a couple, sorry, the wind is a bit, that's the worst, when it's raining and windy at the same time. When it's only one of the above, it's fine, but when you have them both, it's complicated for the gimbal. Anyway, it's a couple, Gilly, they are from Australia, and they do, well, they do everything. They are known for their statues, but they do paintings as well. And they very often do those two characters in the middle. So Dogman and Rabbit Woman. And here you've got quite a few more guests at the table. There's also, let me show you, there's a little bench so you can sit with them and join the dinner table. They're getting very popular now. They've done some work all across the globe, really. Sadly, they've, well, with popularity, of course, comes a bit of copy. So there are a lot of people that have started to copy them now to produce little statuettes and stuff to sell them in gift shop or art shops and stuff like that. But yeah, quite, I like the koala here. So quite a lovely wild table. Let me show you their names. I'm sure most of you already know Gillian Mark, but I'll show you the name in case you wanted to Google them. The Wild Table of Love. Oh, I forgot the love. The Wild Table of Love. You like the hippo? I like them all, but the koala and the lion as well are cool. Anyway. Let's go down to see the main entrance of the station. Oops, sorry, I'm just gonna try to swap hands with the umbrella. It's easier for me to have the gimbal in the right hand side. There we go. It's actually fairly busy for a rainy Sunday afternoon. I thought, oh, I'll do it on a Sunday afternoon because there won't be many commuters in the station, but there are quite a few people around anyway. It's still much quieter than it would be if you came here in the morning at peak hour. I have spent quite a few hours in here myself because When I started being a guide, the first few months in the winter, I did not have enough work to survive. So I used to do agency work. And this way I could stay available if in case I had a tour until the last minute, and then I would take agency work the day or a few days ahead. And some of that work, sometimes I was lucky and I would be, for example, a sampling product. So I would be inside of the station giving free samples, and everyone loves you. Sometimes when you are not lucky, you'd be outside flyering in the rain at peak hour. This is, I can tell you, for your self-esteem, it's potentially the worst job you can possibly do. The way people look down at you when you're trying to give them a leaflet and they're trying to go to work, or the other way around, it can be difficult for your self-esteem. This side here is all new. At the time, a few years back when I was flying here, that wasn't here. When you're flying, the only person, I even had, sometimes I even had some friends coming in and out of the station. I was trying to say hello. They wouldn't even see me because they kind of blank you out. It's like you don't exist for them. So it can be a difficult job. And the irony of it, it's that a lot of the people that do flying outside of the stations, they actually are actors. Because, when you are an actor, you don't have much job for most of the year, so you have to do agency work. And sometimes, if they know, I think once I had a funny situation. We were flying inside of Barnes station in South London. Me and a colleague, she was an actor, and she was actually in Game of Thrones. Two guys came out. They completely ignored us and they were really rude. And they came back a couple of hours later. We were still there. And I think they must have had a drink or something. And they started to speak to us. And they were asking, oh, what do you do? She's like, oh, I'm an actor. Oh, she was playing a prostitute in Game of Thrones. Anyway, then the next thing you know, those two guys wanted to take selfies with us. When 2 hours earlier, they ignored us like if we were the bottom of society, But yeah. The only people that really speak to you when you're flying, it's the homelesses. There used to be, one day I was actually flying here outside of Paddington Station. It probably was like 3 to 7, peak hour. And there was a very nice homeless guy that was just stood there. He wasn't intoxicated, he was just nice and smiley. And he was chatting to me all afternoon because I had to be there, he was there. And you would be amazed by the quantity of food people gave him. And he ate everything. Out of the space of 3 hours, he had, there was a guy that went to McDonald's and he was like, oh, bring me some chips and, fries and hot chocolate. He had that. Then there was another guy that brought him some Indian food, two little boxes, the curry and the rice. He ate it. Then he had some pain au chocolat. Then he stood up, he was like, oh, this lady's just given me a tenner, we're going for a steak. I was like, are you really gonna have a steak? And he went for a steak and he came back. And then someone gave him a big rounded plastic bag. He looked inside and he was like, bah. And I was like, what is it? He was like, oh, it's called pizzas. Do you want it? I was like, no, I'm good. I couldn't take them home anyway because I was branded on everything. But yeah, they do get, sometimes they can get a lot of food. No, we're not on Baker Street. Laurie, we're going down towards Edgware Road. So we are on Pritt Street. Actually, you know what happened here on Pritt Street? Do you remember when we did Notting Hill? We're not too far from Notting Hill. We could walk it from here. We might have spoken about the murders of Reg Christie. The 10 Rillington Place. The guy that killed his neighbor, his wife. He buried them in the garden and under the floorboard. And then he managed to accuse his neighbor, and the guy got hanged. And then they realized it was a miscarriage of justice. well, he met one of his victims on this street over here. But let me show you here. This is St. Mary's Hospital here. This is where Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. And there's a little museum. I've never been inside. I think you have to book in ahead and stuff, but this is a little museum to Alexander Fleming. Apparently when he discovered it, Fleming was already aware of the risk of the bacteria getting a bit too, oh, hold on, I think it might have stopped raining. Yeah, let's get rid of the umbrella for now. So yeah, Fleming was already aware of the risk of the bacteria getting too accustomed to penicillin and getting stronger and able to resist it. Because of course it helped hugely. You know, imagine against syphilis and all those horrible diseases we had. But you don't want to take too much, because of course then bacteria get stronger. Bear with me one sec. I'm just gonna get rid of the umbrella for now. Hopefully I won't have to get it back out in 2 minutes, but let's see. Thank you, Natalie. That's very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Cool. So yeah, we were talking about Reg Christie. It is here on Pritt Street that he met. She probably would have been his 5th victim. He had already killed his neighbor and stuff, but he met a lady over here, Kathleen Maloney, and he managed to convince her to pose for some pornographic photography with him and another girl, another sex worker. That was in the 50s, and he was posing himself on the porn images. Then he never actually paid them, or not the full amount, and then he managed to invite her to his place, and then we know what happens next. I think Catherine, she was actually she was not buried in the garden. She was not under the floorboard, because that was already full of cadavers. She had been placed in a little. He had a little alcove in his kitchen that you wouldn't see because it was hidden behind the wallpaper. And when he left his property, the new tenant, of course, discovered it, and that's how they discovered the body, and that's how they discovered the horrible miscarriage of justice that the poor Timothy Evan, the neighbor, had been hanged by mistake. This pub here is also named after Alexander Fleming from the penicillin. Anyway, if you know what, there might be a few links in this tour today to Notting Hill, as well as Kensal Green Cemetery. So if you wanted to revisit those tours, I'll pop them down in the description if you wanted to watch it again. Because 10 Wellington Place, we could talk about it for an hour. It was one of the most disgusting serial killers of the 20th century in London. But we are now on Star Street, and well, I'm afraid there was a murder here as well. And not as infamous at all. Actually, it's a bit of a forgotten murder. But there was a lady that lived around here. Her name was Kitty. She lived in a lodging house. You know those lodging houses at the time? We are in the 1930s, 34 I think it was. At the time you had those, it's a bit like a flat share today, but the landlord would be on site, and you'd rent a little room and that's it. Kitty worked as a waitress in a cafe down there, and she had a boyfriend. They had been dating for a year, but they still had different bedrooms and stuff. His name was Harry Tuffney. He according to him at least, he had had a difficult life. He had been abandoned. His mum had died. 2 of his siblings had died. His second wife had died. The first one had left him. And he'd been dating Kitty. They were together for about a year. Let me find the property. I think it's this one. Yeah, number 75. No, this one. So this is. They all look the same on the street. It's all the same. So they both had a bedroom in there, and well, according to him, because the victims, of course, they don't really have a voice. But according to him, he had found a letter in Kitty's handbag where allegedly she had met another guy and she was gonna run away with him. There's no evidence of that. The letter was never found. But one day he went to buy an axe and he killed her. Then he wrote a few letters claiming that he was gonna sadly unalive himself. And then he opened the gas tab, but he didn't die. We don't know why. The gas was probably not strong enough, or maybe he just didn't want to die. He tried to claim that it was a pact, a death pact, and that they both wanted to go together, but really there was absolutely no evidence that Kitty had been feeling down at any point. So he went down for murder. They tried to claim insanity, but that didn't work. He went down for murder and he was hanged. I wonder if the locals know that it happened in there. Because at the time it was a bit of a slum, but today, to have a property here, that'll be quite expensive. Although I lived around here once. So that's the Edgware Road down there. If you take a right, you end up going to Marble Arch. I lived in there 18 years ago now. In a little flat share, it was 5 of us in a 2-bedroom flat. I didn't stay for very long because they were young party animals, my flatmates. But it wasn't that expensive. But I was sharing a room with a complete stranger, a tiny room. Now on the Edgware Road, there's another murder, I'm afraid. At the time, there was a little cafe in the corner, I'll show you where, that was called the Victory Cafe. And, if you go back to 100 years ago, at the time, a lot of people didn't have a kitchen at home, especially when you lived in those lodging houses and stuff. Very often, you didn't have your own kitchen, or even if the landlady had one, it didn't mean that you could use it. So you'd have a lot of people that would go into those cafes for breakfast, lunch and dinner, really. Basic food like a fry-up or eggs or omelets or whatever it might be. I'll show you that was the site of the Victory Cafe there. Today it's a branch of Marks and Spencer. We'll see the head office of Marks and Spencer's in a moment. I'll show you there's a funny plaque. But back to the murder for now. So that was in the 50s, 1950, I think, to be precise. The lady that owned the cafe, her name was Alice, but she was known as Madame. And she was a very hard-working lady. She was from somewhere around Liverpool originally, but she had an accident when she worked as... She had worked at a butcher shop in Liverpool, and she'd had an accident. She'd cut her finger. The finger had to go. The problem was not the amputation, it's that she caught a bacteria from the pork, and she had a huge blood infection, and she had to be on drugs for the rest of her life. And those drugs made her unable to sleep properly. So although she had an apartment in central London, she would actually sleep into the kitchen of the cafe. She had some staff, she had some waitresses and stuff, but the kitchen, that's where she would sleep on a chair. She couldn't actually sleep on a proper bed for some reason. And no one would go into the kitchen. The waitress would not enter the kitchen. That was her place. And she made an interesting friend, a lady called June. June was 20 years old. She was a local sex worker. And June would be on the streets over here trying to find some customers. And then she'd come to the Victory Cafe every lunch and dinner. And she made friends with Alice, or Madame, as everyone called her. Even the guest at the cafe would call her Madame. And June, the sex worker, didn't quite trust the banks. So we're back on Prince Street now. And she decided to ask Alice, the cafe owner, now our friend, if she could hide a bit of money for her. So it started with small amounts of money, and the two ladies became very good friends. Before to go out in the evening, June would come and do her makeup in the kitchen and get ready to go and find her customers. And over the months, and maybe even over the years, the amount of money that was kept under the floorboard upstairs was quite a lot. So Madame, the owner, decided to ask June to keep notes, to have a little booklet where she'd write every transaction. So she did. Every time she'd come on deposit some money, she'll write it on the little book. And one day, let's try to go down this way. We might be kicked out again, but let's see. One day, it was Boxing Day actually in 1950. So the cafe had been closed on the 25th. On Boxing Day, June came back. She had her dinner. She got ready to go outside. The waitress left. They were like, "Oh, Merry Christmas, bye, June." And at that point, June decided to ask the landlady if she could withdraw a bit of money. That's when Alice came out with a knife and brutally attacked June. June at first only tried to defend herself, but she was stabbed and she was starting to lose a lot of blood. There was a very, very violent fight between the two ladies. They were biting each other. June managed to bend the knife, so she couldn't use it as well. But eventually, when she realized that this was not going to go down well, June grabbed another knife. She stabbed Alice and ran out. June was saved. Alice died. Of course, June was arrested. She did tell them the truth, that she was collecting her money, that she didn't understand what happened. She had no clue why Alice attacked her. She said she was just going to collect the money. And when the police searched the property, they found no money. It was the equivalent of £7,000 in today's money. Eventually, though, they still believed her. They still believed that she was defending herself, and she was let go. She was set free. So that's good for June. But to this day, we still don't know why Alice attacked her. She probably had used the money and had to get rid of her friend. Anyway, this is Paddington Basin. It's a lovely little place, but I was telling you, if I don't get kicked out, this is part of what we call a pubs. In London, we have a lot of pubs. I hate those pubs. Pubs, it's for privately owned public space. So although it might look public, it's not public at all. London is full of pubs nowadays. Some of them you might have visited with me on my tours. For example, Cold Rope Yard in King's Cross, or Battersea Power Station, Canary Wharf, Elephant and Castle. Those pubs, they basically belong to property developers. So that's why you're not even allowed to film unless you have permissions. And some of them are beautiful, but personally, if you ask me, I don't really like them because they look very sterile. Because they are They are, hi Diane, glad you've made it. They are self-policed. So all of those people living here and all those businesses, they pay some very heavy service charges to pay for the policing of the place. So of course you won't see young people having a spliff, you won't see a beggar, you won't see a busker, or you shouldn't see any YouTubers either, because they have all those securities all the time. Of course the Metropolitan Police can come as well if there's a need, but most of those pubs are self-policing, so that's why the securities, they would usually tell me to go. It's the same, even the South Bank, you know, what we call London Bridge City. So that's between Tower Bridge and London Bridge on the South Bank. That's a pubs as well. So we're being invaded by pubs. As we go down, we won't go, but there's also Paddington Central. That's also a pubs. So they're all quite new, interesting development, but they basically are private. Anyway, we're back on the main street now, outside of the pubs. So I won't be kicked out of here. So we are now back at the back of, in the middle of St. Mary's Hospital. And we're going down this way because there's a little door I want to show you. A door that I'm pretty sure most of you will recognize. You've never heard of that, Tish? Well, I think most people haven't. Most people, I think a lot of people don't realize. I only know because I've been told off from filming. So that's how I looked into it. To be completely fair to the pubs, a lot of those areas are areas that they've never been public anyway. Like, you know, the Paddington Basin here. That would have been industrial, you know, that's where the cargo used to come to be dispatched all over London, really. Same for Coal Drop Yard in King's Cross. That was also very industrial. You'd have the link between the canals and the trains. So one can argue that some of them were never public at the first place, but when the industry left, it was hugely redeveloped, and it's not public. Elephant and Castle, that used to be public though. They bought it off the council, and they kicked off a lot of the tenants that lived in there. They probably did rebuild some council properties, but still, it's not public. And sometimes the way they promote it is like, oh yeah, you've got those lovely little benches for the teenagers to come and do their homework. No, teenagers, they don't want to do their homeworks. They want to come and have a cigarette with their mates. They can't because the security is there and they don't want their parents to know. I find them very sterile, very just cold because of those securities that are there 24/7. Anyway, here is the door. I'll be curious to see if you recognize it, because when you see the pictures in the tabloids and stuff, it looks a little bit more glamorous. I'll cross over so you can see a bit better. Oh, let me show you the statue. I think this one is called the Messenger. There's another one just off the Edgware Road that's a window cleaner. This one I think is a Messenger. Is there a sign you know not to go in? Cynthia is asking. No, usually you'd see little bollards, or you kind of see that there's a frontier, but there's nothing official telling you, hey, welcome, you are in a pub. No. Anyway, yes, Tish, Canary Wharf is one of the biggest pubs in London. Yes, absolutely. Right, let me show you. 10 points in the chat if you recognize this door. I'm pretty sure 100% of you have seen it before. Maybe 99% of you. Let me know in the chat if you recognize it. You would have seen it several times over a period of, many years. Bridget Jones? No. Well, not that I know of, or at least that's not why it's famous to me. Oh no, that's not the one from Notting Hill, no. Yes, exactly, Mo, exactly, guys, royal babies. Let me show you a picture. So this is where the royal babies come out. Yeah, exactly, royal maternity ward. So this is the Linda wing. So that's where the royal babies get delivered. Hi Samantha, welcome everyone that just joined. Let me remove the picture and let's go back down to the canal. When I say royal babies, of course, I'm talking about every royal baby apart from Archie and Lilibeth. Archie was born, well, officially I think he was born at Portland Street Maternity or Hospital or whatever it's called. Tish, I don't want to go too far on the conspiracy theories, but yeah, about Meghan Markle, there were a lot of discrepancies, especially with the birth, because the birth of Lilibeth, it's in California with a private doctor, we don't know much about it. But the birth of Archie, usually there's a royal protocol, usually they do it here and with trusted doctors. And Archie, Meghan Markle announced that she was going through labor when Archie was already born. This is a fact, it's not even conspiracy theories. Did she lie because she wanted more privacy? Maybe. Did she lie because of another reason? I don't know. I don't want to spread conspiracy theories, but I can tell you, I'm actually not convinced she gave birth to those kids. I think she might have used a surrogate. Some of you might remember the twerking video she posted, very shameful video she posted on Instagram about 6 months ago now, when she's twerking with the baby at hospital. I think she posted it especially because she knew that, because you might wonder, so what? So what if they use the surrogate? Well, I don't mind if they use the surrogate, but then we'd have to have an act of parliament to change the line of succession, because at the moment a baby born with a surrogate cannot be in the line of succession. You'd have to have a major accident, of course, for the crown to go back up to Harry, because at the moment the line of succession is, of course, William, George, Charlotte, Louis, and then we go back to Harry. So we'd have a King Henry IX, because his name is actually Henry. Obviously no one wants that, but the thing is, William is a helicopter pilot, and he's insisting to take his family in his helicopter. Usually they don't even take the same trains, just to make sure there's no tragedy like that. But apparently William is insisting on doing so. That's one of the arguments he had with his dad over the last few years. Imagine if there was, oh Laurie, you know what, there might be, I've seen Bridget Jones, but I don't really know all the filming locations apart from the Borough Market. I know that one, but maybe. So yeah, the royal babies apart from Harry and Meghan's babies. Some even say those babies don't exist, because every time they post on social media the back of Archie and Lilibeth, every time they look very different. But anyway, that's pure conspiracy theories. I'm not gonna go down there. Now, the building across the canal here, that is the head office of Marks and Spencer's. So Marks and Spencer's, the shops. Marks, his name was Michael Marks. He was born in what will be today Belarus. So he was an immigrant from a Jewish family. It's funny that he ended up in England, because he was actually scammed. He wanted to go to the United States, but he went to the port, I think in Poland, and he tried to buy a ticket to go to America. But because he didn't speak English, they scammed him on he ended up buying a ticket to Hull in Yorkshire. And that's how he ended up in Leeds eventually, where he opened a penny bazaar. So the penny bazaars, they were like the Poundland or the Dollar Tree today. Everything was a penny. And you could browse and touch. At the time it was quite unusual, in the 1880s, to be able to touch everything, because most of the shops, you'd get in, you'd be served behind the counter. To be able to touch all the items, that was quite new. And that was also very convenient for him, because he didn't speak English anyway, so no one would come to him and ask for the price, because everything was a penny. Easy, simple. And then that's when he met Tom Spencer's. They started a business together. So the first one was in Leeds, and of course now it's known for good British good quality goods. But let me show you, they have a little blue plaque, or pink plaque I should say, that is quite it's quite funny. There we go, Marks and Spencer's Heritage, Percy Pig, 1992 to current. Now, if you are from the US, you might not know what Percy Pig is. Let me show you. That's Percy Pig. It's a staple of British cuisine. It's, it's actually, I don't even like Percy Pigs. I think they're just too British for me. I think I've watched a study that, I don't know if it applies to all the sweets, but at least with chocolate, that you like the sweets that you've been given as a treat as a child. So because I was a child in France, obviously I didn't have Percy Pigs. So if you give me a Kinder, I'm happy, but Percy Pigs, I don't care. But I didn't realize how big was Percy Pig until, the first COVID lockdown. I knew I was going to have no work whatsoever, because at the time I used to do a lot of tours at the British Museum, and the British Museum closed about 10 days before the lockdowns. So I was like, I need to find a job now. At the time I didn't know that Rishi Sunak was going to give us some help, the self-employed. Anyway, I ended up taking a job in a petrol station, BP, and there was a little M&S. And I was amazed. You wouldn't imagine the amount of people that come down to pay for their petrol and buy a bag of Percy Pigs. And I'm talking grown-ups, not even kids, just adults. They come to pay for their petrol and they have to get their Percy Pigs as well. I never imagined they were that popular, but yeah, they're huge, the Percy Pigs. Apparently there was a Marks and Spencer's in Hertfordshire where they had a big statue of a Percy Pig over the roof as well. So a very important sweet in the UK. You don't like them, Catherine? Well, it's not that I don't like them, but I'm not a big sweet person. I like chocolates, but in terms of sweets or candies in general, I'm not, or at least not the fruity one. No. I mean, they look cute, but I wouldn't, if you give me a sweet or a Haribo or whatever, I'll eat it, but I would never buy a pack of Percy Pigs or Haribo for myself. Luckily, it's a vice I don't have. Right, hello. This gentleman was happy to be on camera for a sec. Right, now, let's go into, well, guess what? A bit of a graveyard. We don't have many graves anymore, but there are some interesting statues. I told you we'll see 3 statues of Paddington today. We've got 1 ticked off, we've got 2 more to see. Although the one we'll see now is not Paddington alone, it's Paddington with his daddy. You love the idea of a bag of pigs. You know what, Tish? There was actually pig in the bag before. The Percy Pig, there was pork inside, because you've got the gelatin, I think when you look at the ingredient, it's E440, I think it is. So there was actually pig in the bag until a few years ago. Now they're vegan, so they swapped the pig gelatin for some beeswax and pea protein and stuff like that. So Percy Pig officially don't have any pig inside anymore. Right, let's go. Cool, Samantha. Right, I don't know if it's bright enough to see them well. Let's see. Oh yeah, no, it's not too bad because they really work with the light. It's so this is Michael Bond with Paddington. I don't know if you see well. So that's basically Paddington's daddy with his little bear. Christopher Bond, he lived around here, actually straight down that way you'll end up. He was right by the Regent's Canal. And of course he decided to create this little character. He was inspired by a bear that had been left alone on the shelves on Selfridges. It was like Christmas, maybe Christmas Eve, and he was going through the big department store, Selfridges, I cannot say it, Selfridges, and he spotted that little bear that was alone. He decided to buy it, and then he made it his most famous character. He would be amazed by. He died. I think it's 2017 when he passed away. But he would be amazed to see what his little character has become since. Now let me show you this one. You probably remember her. This is Mary Seacole. She was a Jamaican nurse at the same time of Florence Nightingale through the Crimean War. We talked about her as well when we went to Kensal Green Cemetery. So thank you, Florence. She was fighting against cholera. She was experimenting, sometimes a bit controversial, you know. She dissected a baby without permission and stuff, but she wanted to save people from cholera. And now this gentleman, I'm glad he's here because we've never had a chance to talk about him in my tours before. And he's got, you know what, let me flip to the other side, you might see him better. Yeah, that's gonna be better from this side. This is Alan Turing. And he was a genius. Alan Turing, you might recognize him from Money. He's the one on the new £50 notes. So this is Turing there. He basically probably shortened World War II for about 2 years. But I'll tell you as we walk. So we are on St. Mary Square, by the way. There's the Church of St. Mary down here. But let's walk towards the canal because this is a bit of an ugly way we've got to go. So Turing, he was a bit of an awkward boy, but he was a mathematical genius. Oh, thank you, Diane. That's very nice of you. He was into coding or decoding. You might know through the Second World War, the Nazis, they had a coding system because they realized fairly quickly after the Battle of Britain and stuff that they were not going to manage to conquer Britain straight away, so they tried to starve it. So they tried to destroy ships in the Atlantic with goods or people coming from the US. And they had all those submarines sinking the ships. And of course they had to communicate with radio. So they had those codes that the Brits could not decipher. They had a machine called the Enigma machine that was able to encode those messages. This is Isambard Kingdom Brunel here as well. And so that was a huge task. Because I do apologize, it's a bit noisy here. that was a crazy task to be able to decode all those messages. And he wasn't alone, but he's mainly is the main brain behind the decoding. He finally managed to crack it. He created a machine that basically would guess all the possibilities of codes and stuff. And he's actually hello again. He's actually to an extent the father of the first computer as well. And I mean, in terms of the war effort, that was huge, because then Britain had a £50 note is not always to spend. It's actually quite hard to spend, because a lot of people don't take cash anymore, and some might say we don't take the 50s because they're scared of fake money and stuff. Anyway, he managed to crack the code. So then, of course, Britain could know where those submarines were and could have the ships going safely. And that also helped with the organization of the Normandy landings and stuff. I mean, it was, in terms of what it brought to the war effort, that was huge. He should have been considered as a hero. He should have been recognized back then. But you know what? What happened was pretty much the opposite. At the time, they didn't want to tell everyone about the machine and everything, because after that, of course, it's the start of the Cold War. So those type of secrets were still secrets, So he couldn't get all the honors he should have had at that point. And Alan was gay at the time, and he wasn't hugely discreet about that. At the time, of course, it was sadly illegal. So he had a boyfriend in Manchester, and that relationship ended up in a court case. He was found guilty of what they'll call at the time gross indecency. He had the choice. He could have taken 2 years in prison, or he could accept to be clinically castrated. He went for the castration. Thank you. And so they gave him some ladies' hormones. He started to grow a bit of a breast and stuff like that, and he complained that he couldn't focus anymore because of those hormones. And sadly, at the age of 41, he died in very mysterious circumstances. I'm gonna wait. So yeah, it will be interesting to know what would have happened if he didn't die, because he was such a genius. I mean, we could have had ChatGPT in the 60s maybe if Alan didn't die. He was also a pioneer of artificial intelligence. But yeah, he was found dead in his bedroom in it's around Manchester somewhere. He officially, the main theory is that he might have taken his own life. He was found on his bed with an apple that was half bitten, and he was poisoned with cyanide. Now the apple, some say that it might be how Apple, the computer company, got their logo, that they would have been inspired by the apple of Alan Turing. But yeah, he was found dead. Now the thing is, when he, people say he might have taken his life because of the castration and stuff. Technically, when he was dead, it had been a year that he had stopped the hormones and stuff, and he didn't show any sign of being depressed. But you never really know how people feel inside, and. But there are some other theories. Although that's the main theory, some people believe that he might have worked on with some acids and stuff to dissolve gold and stuff, and he might have poisoned himself with cyanide in the chemical experiment. And some believe that he might have been killed, that someone might have put cyanide into the apple, but not himself. Because we are at the beginning of the Cold War. Turing's genius was amazing, but also he would have known a lot of secrets, you know, in terms of coding and decoding, and because he might have been disappointed by British government because of what they did to him in terms of the castration and stuff, and how they treated him when he should have been a hero. Maybe they were scared that he would swap to the other side, you know, that he would maybe go and help the Russian, who knows. So maybe he knew too much. Maybe they felt like they had to eliminate him. We'll never know, but finally he was given a royal pardon by Queen Elizabeth II in, I think that was 2013. So did all the other men that over the years were convicted of gruesome indecency. They were all officially given a royal pardon. Now we start to talk about him, put him in the history books, put his face on the money, but really he should have had more accolades years and years ago. So yeah, very sad story. And we are now back by the canal, so you see all those canal boats, people living on the canal. And soon we'll see another Paddington. But first I've got another statue to show you. Now you know what? Because we've got a bit of light over here, I'm gonna show you another Paddington before it gets too dark. Hold on. I've got another amazing treasure in my pocket. Got to be careful with this one because it's not mine. I borrowed it from a friend. So this is Paddington at the Tower of London. It's one of those collector 50p's. It's not valuable. They had minted over 8 millions. I think there are 4 different ones in total. But here we go. Yeah, Bletchley Park, the museum, so that's where Turing was experimenting. I've never been. You know what? He had a stuffed bear as well. Apparently, at the museum at Bletchley Park, there's the stuff, not a Paddington, but he had a bear as well. So that's quite cute, you know, to know that even such a genius like his teddy bears. Anyway. This is an interesting piece of art. It's from Sean Henry. Do you remember what it's called? It's one of those statues that's amazing, but the name is not that original. What would you call it? Or maybe how would you describe it? So we've got two men. Let me show you the other one. We were talking about pops earlier. That's another pop. All this area there, it's Paddington Central. It is busy at lunchtime with people from the different companies having a little lunch on there's like a little green, or it looks a bit like an amphitheater, but again, that's a pops. So how would you call those statues? You thought it was a real man? Yeah, they look very realistic, don't they? It's meant to highlight the anonymity in London, you know, how we can stand in front of one another and not even talk to one another, especially in areas like Paddington at peak hour. You know, you just don't speak, you are in your own world. So I'll tell you, it's called Standing Man and Walking Man. So that's standing man here and walking man on the other side. Two men approaching. Oh, even that's too sophisticated. Standing man and walking man. Right, let me show you another Paddington. Oh, someone has taken the... there was, earlier today, there was a little stuffed Paddington Bear that was probably left behind, that had been placed under his hat. So you had a double Paddington, but I guess someone took it. Or maybe someone reclaimed it, whoever had lost it at first. This one is part of a trail they had years ago now. It was a trail with a lot of those different Paddingtons. This one managed to stay. Yes, Natalie, you're right. Those two men are missing their phone. Nowadays, we won't even look ahead. We'll be looking at our phones. Anyway, let's go down to Little Venice. So Paddington, it's always been a popular character, but really, I think Michael Bond would be so proud to see what happened to his little bear in the last few years, because it became a huge royal mascot. What happened is, Tina, I think it might be velvet. It's a bit, when you touch it, it feels like velvet to me. So yeah, what happened with Paddington, really, it's that for a lot of us, it's the last image we had of Queen Elizabeth II. You know, before the Jubilee, when she did that little video with Paddington, apparently she improvised. And, you know, she must be a great actor, because she improvised with an actor that wasn't there. Because I'm sorry to let you know, but Paddington Bear is not real. So she was you know, improvising with a digital bear. But that was, you know, so that was that very funny video in the palace where she gets out a marmalade sandwich out of her bag. And to an extent, Paddington is always embodied all the quality that the Queen has shown for all her life, you know, because Paddington is very polite, he sees the good in people, he's very tolerant, and that's exactly what Queen Elizabeth II was showing us as well, you know. Michael Bond, he was actually born the same year as the Queen. He was actually at the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. He used to work as a cameraman for the BBC. And so yeah, he'd be incredibly proud of his little bear. Oh yeah, like Santa, I'm afraid. So we are now at Little Venice. And do you, there's a funny story. Do you know Jeremy Clarkson, the TV presenter? Well, the very reason why Jeremy was well educated on stuff, it is actually because of Paddington Bear, would you believe? This is a podcast recording studio. So you could come and do a podcast on the canal. Anyway, yeah, Jeremy Clarkson is from, I think, Yorkshire originally. And at the age of 13 years old, his mum decided to, she made up a little stuffed bear. Two, actually, one for him, one for his sister. And those bears became very popular with their schoolmates. So the mother started to produce some more to sell them in their little shop in Yorkshire. And then, Michael Bond and the Paddington creator was like, copyright. So there was a court case. And as I think his name was Edward, so Clarkson's dad, he came down to London to meet the solicitor to get ready for the court case. And in the lift, as he was going to meet his solicitor, he actually met Michael Bond, and they had a chat, and they loved each other, those two. So instead of going for the court case, Michael Bond decided to give Clarkson's dad the copyright to produce those Paddington Bears. And they started to sell in Hamleys and stuff, the toy shop. So that's how the Clarkson family made a lot of money, and that's how Jeremy went to the best school and became a TV presenter. Now, this is Browning Island. This area, Little Venice. The name might sound quite romantic. We think, well, we don't know for sure. Some people said it might be Lord Byron. Some people say it might be Robert Browning that first called it Little Venice. Whoever that is, that's I'll show you. So Browning is there. That's probably estate agents that really picked it up years later, and it officially became Little Venice. Now this area, Browning Island and stuff, you might also have seen it in Paddington too. Let me show you a few screenshots. There's a scene where you've got Paddington running away. He's trying to reclaim the book, you know, the London fold-up book. And so he's running where we are now by the canal with the doggy. And there's at some point he's being picked up by a girl and he's kind of flying over Browning Island there. Behind the island, so that's the Regent's Canal. We coming from the Paddington Basin, so that's like a dead arm. It doesn't go any further. The Regent's Canal, you could go all the way down to Camden and keep going towards East London and join the River Thames. And on this side, it's the Grand Union Canal, so I could go all the way up to Birmingham, really. And then from Birmingham, you can go to Liverpool or all across the country. Now, we were talking about court cases. There's another Paddington court case happening very soon. It was in the news a few days ago, actually. Let me show you what we're doing now. We are I cannot even say it. We're gongoozling. Apparently, the action of watching the boats, that's called gongoozling. So we're having a little how can I say it? Gongoozling walk. Now, there's some of you might know the show Spitting Image with those puppets that it's a satiric show. They make fun of anyone, really, politicians mainly, but it could be anyone. And in the last few months, they've had, let me show you a screenshot. They had Prince Harry and Paddington hosting Spitting Image. To be honest, it's very funny. Paddington is quite naughty, and he's called, he called himself Pablo Escobar, but he's snorting cocaine and stuff. And to be honest, the first time I've watched it, I was like, what did Paddington do to deserve that? Because most of the time the stuff they do is very satirical, you know, they're mocking people, but it's based on something they've done, you know. Like Prince Harry, Prince Harry is very funny. Prince Harry is spot on, you know, he's ridiculous, but he's spot on. Hold on, I'm struggling to, there we go, couldn't get rid of the image. So now, Studio Canal, it's the French production that produced the Paddington movies. They're actually suing Spitting Image because they say it's not satiric, it's character defamation. Character assassination, they say. To be fair, I could see both sides. I think it's it's an attack on comedy, it's an attack on freedom of speech. But in the other side, Paddington did nothing to deserve that. He's a drug dealer bear, and he's a bit nasty, and you're like, why do that to Paddington? So that'll be interesting to see what happens with the court case. Anyway, quick stop here to show you the plaque. The Borough of Paddington? What? If you know London well, you probably know we don't have such thing as the Borough of Paddington. But we used to. We used to have 86 different London boroughs. Now we are down to 32. You can see the VR, so that's Victoria Regina. So it's from 1900s. At the time we had a borough of Paddington. This pub over here, that's quite cool. They have a little theatre on top. This pub was built as a home. We have a lot of buildings in London that started as a pub and now they're residential. This one was the other way around. It was built as a stately home at the very beginning of the 19th century. Anyway, they have a little theatre upstairs. That's quite nice. But yeah, back to Paddington. So yeah, we had the Borough of Paddington, the Borough of Marylebone, and in 1965, they decided to reduce the amount of boroughs in London because it was very complicated. Sometimes you had the library in one borough, the school in one borough. So they decided to get it down to 32. But that was a bit of a puzzle because some boroughs didn't want to be together. Some boroughs were like Tory voting and some were Labour voting, and they didn't want to be matched together, and they had to find new names. well, technically, this one is not very new because Westminster, Marylebone, and Paddington, it's now Westminster, I think. But yes, some boroughs didn't want to be together. Like, for example, well, in Brent and stuff, and Newham and Eastham had to become Newham, so they couldn't reuse the name. They had to find a new one. Apart from Kensington and Chelsea, but Kensington and Chelsea, they're so rich, they do whatever they want. But yeah, that's always interesting to see those old plaques and to see those parishes. They were like the well, those boroughs. They were like the parish, the parish churches. Right. Now those. To get back to the Paddington court case, that's going to be interesting because, as some of you might remember, usually when Paddington goes to court, he wins. That was not long ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe more. There were some RAF soldiers that were drunk on the streets of Newbury. They attacked a Paddington statue. There's the video is online. You can see them like, they're literally pissed and they're just attacking the statue. They managed to break half of it. They took half of Paddington in a taxi to take it back to their military barracks. They were caught, they went to court, and they had quite a hard sentencing. The judge said what they did was the antithesis of the Paddington message, I think that's what he said. And they had to go for 1 year of community service, 150 hours, I think, of unpaid work, as well as a big penalty fare, nearly 3,000 each. And I mean, it's quite a harsh sentence. Not that they don't deserve it. They shouldn't attack Paddington. Although they probably don't even remember, but because they did look quite intoxicated on the CCTV video. Anyway, so most of those boats are houseboats, but they're probably not staying here for very long because we talked about that before when we did the tour in Camden. We should go back to Camden. We've not been to Camden forever now. But you know, to live on a canal boat, you have to pay for a license. If you have a cruising license, it's not too much. It might be like 500 a year, so it's not much. But you have to move every 2 weeks, and you have to do, I think it's 21 miles through the year. But you have to keep moving one direction, and they can come and check, you know. But here in Little Venice, you're not even allowed to stay the 2 weeks. I think it's only 1 week, if you find a spot, which is also quite unlikely. Nice to see you here, Roxana. And so yeah, if you want a permanent license, it's probably very, very expensive here. Depending on the area, it's like it could be £1,000 a month, you know. So you're basically paying a rent in your license. There was we did have a couple of murders around here as well. We have one lady in 1942, a sex worker again, that was found dead in the canal, a bit further up, but she was found a week later. And she was a sex worker. You know, it's always, sadly, that, you know, those ladies have always been so much more exposed than anybody else because of the nature of the job, you know, because they have to take their customers to a place that's quite isolated. So sadly, they're like the perfect victims. That lady, we still don't know, to this day, we still don't know what happened to her. Her name was Lena Cunningham, but she would have some, you know, they often had some other names that they would use. I think she was also known as Alice King, and she had different names. Oh, thank you, Barbara. and they did manage to find who she was. No one had reported her missing because she was homeless. She was a few weeks earlier squatting with a friend of hers, but he had kicked her out. The police eventually managed to find the little spot where she had been sleeping rough, because they could see the print in the grass. You know, it was like high grass, but that's it really. Eventually they ended up concluding that it was an accident, that she might have been drunk and maybe stopped to vomit in the canal and fell in the canal or whatever. It's quite difficult to drown in the canal because it's not deep. It's about 4 feet maximum. So even I could just stand up and survive. But of course, if you're a bit intoxicated, I say I because I'm quite short. I'm 5 foot something. Just to let you know, because some people might not know I'm short, so they might be like, why can she not swim? No, it's just because I'm quite short. So even with my fat high of my 5 foot 5'2", I think I might be, I could still stand up and breathe. But yeah, sadly we never knew what had happened to her. It's a lovely place to live, and a lovely community on canal boats. Although I've heard something recently, I don't know if it's true, but I was watching an interview of it's a former police officer, so it must be true. Apparently, maybe not so much now, but 20 years ago, there was a big element of PDF files. If I say PDF files, you know what I mean, right? I'm not allowed to say certain terms on YouTube, but PDF files. So apparently there were a lot of them on canal boats. Because if you're a sex offender and you're free because you've done your time in prison or whatever, you've got to register with your local police apparently. So if you move, I don't know, you live in Hertfordshire and you're moving down to Kent, you have to turn up at the police station and be like, hey, hello, I'm a sex offender. And if they travel on the road, or if they move on the road, eventually they'll be spotted. So apparently there were a lot of them living on canal boats, because then they wouldn't be tracked. But I mean, it's hard to imagine that it would be that many. But yeah, that was interesting. Anyway, moving on. There was another murder around here, just a little bit further up. We'll probably go all the way. There was at the time there were a few Victorian buildings that have since then been destroyed, that were abandoned, or some of them might have been squatted. We are now in the 1960s, so 1969, I think, to be precise. And one of them was completely abandoned, and there was a lady that was living with her partner Robert in I think she lived in Notting Hill. She'd gone missing, and that was it for a while. She was known as Scotch Maggie. She suffered from alcoholism, and at first the police suspected Robert because he was meant to be a sailor, and it turned up that he wasn't, and he had lied about many things, and he apparently was violent with his first wife and kids, and so at first they just didn't trust the guy. When eventually there was a worker that went into one of those abandoned buildings, because he was into books, and there were a lot of books that had been left in the building. They were a bit wet though, because the ceilings were leaking and the roof was gone and all that. And he looked at a big suitcase. He opened it, and sadly there was a body in there. It was indeed Scotch Maggie, but that was really odd because she was not wearing what Robert, the boyfriend, had claimed that she'd been wearing. She was not even dressed like to go out. She was wearing some kind of, what would look like a pajama or something to stay at home, and Eventually, the hello.
Hello.
Eventually, the police was somehow almost convinced that the boyfriend Robert didn't have anything to do with it. Although he was a bit of a dodgy character himself, he probably wasn't guilty. And they did a great amount of work. They contacted all the taxis in the area to see if maybe she could have. The suitcase might have been taken into a taxi. It didn't look like anyone would remember the suitcase. Then eventually they thought, okay, if it's locally, then we had to go door to door. So they went door to doors, and then they went into a second-hand dealer. You know, some guy selling clothes or whatever could be second-hand. And the guy was like, oh, okay, hold on, bear with me because I've got a big bag from Polish Joe. I've not opened it yet. Polish Joe was a character he knew, a guy that used to sell a lot of rags. And when they looked into the bag, it was full of items that would have belonged to Scotch Maggie. Margaret had some fake teeth. Oops, so it's very dark under the tunnel. It's gonna get a bit brighter in a sec. Maggie had some fake teeth, and even the fake teeth, some kind of like a denture was in there. So there was no doubt that those items came from Mary. And the guy called Polish Joe was actually called Joseph. He was, as you might have guessed, from Poland. And they went to interrogate him. At first he said he had nothing to do with it, and then eventually he admitted that she had died at his place. They were mates. I mean, he was an alcoholic as well, and she apparently had gone to visit him, and he claimed the cause of death seemed to have been an hemorrhage in the head because of a shock to the head. He claimed that she came to his, they had some drinks, she was quite drunk, and he would have then gone to the laundrette, and when he came back, she had fallen hit her head on the heater. And she spent the night over. She was very, very unwell, and the next day she was first in a coma and then dead. And he said he panicked. He put her in a suitcase because he was a rag seller. People would be. They were not really shocked, you know. To anyone else walking with a large suitcase might be a bit suspicious, but the guy, that's exactly what he did, you know. He'd walk around with big bags or whatever he would have collected, so that wasn't unusual. And he had dropped the suitcase. They were not convinced, but eventually they believed him, and he was acquitted. Little did they know, a few months or maybe a few years later, they realized that he had some problems with the police before. There was a girl that accused him of trying to kill her. He had met her, he had taken her home and given her some drinks, and he had tried to kill her. The thing is, the girl had not shown up at court after accusing him, so the case had dropped. Sadly, now he was acquitted, so there wasn't much they could have done. So he was free. Anyway, I wanted to finish the tour under the flyover there, but I'm not sure it's going to be worth it. Because there's a little mural, you can see a bit of I think it's very recent, because I came here a few days ago, and it still smelled a bit of paint. Well, it could have been someone painting their boat, but let's go and see if we can see anything. I think it's going to be too dark to see, but let's go and see, because it's a nice little mural with the, you can see the horses, because back in the day, when the canals were dug up to transport the goods, that was before the railway. So at the time, the only option, if you wanted to carry, I don't know, beer or china or whatever it might be, you'd have to stick it on the back of a horse, So the canals were very convenient, but at the time the canal boats didn't have a motor. That would be horsepower. So the horses would be where I am now, and they'll be dragging the boat. The only places where they couldn't have the horses were in the tunnels. So that's why the tunnels were quite low, because the boatmen, it's quite hard to explain, but they would lay on their back. So they'll be on the top of the boat, on their back, with their legs up, pushing the boat with their legs. So pushing the boat on the ceiling of the tunnel. Apparently, it's the origin of the phrase, you know, when we said to leg it, apparently that's from legging the boat into the tunnels when the horse couldn't drag it. My bicycle is still here, so that's a good sign. You know, when you see my bicycle, it's coming towards the end of the tour. Anyway, let me try to show you the mural. I don't think you'd see much, but oh, maybe. So that's the horses dragging the boat. So that's probably beginning of the 19th century here. You can see a bit of the gas lamp. Apologies, it's very dark. I don't know if you see much, but and then we move in time, so it goes all the way till recent times, but there's no need to go. You won't see anything. I expected it to be a little bit brighter because the sun is not completely gone usually at this time, but because it's been very rainy today. We don't have any more sunlight still, or dusk light still around. Anyway, that's gonna be the end of the tour. Let me know in the chat if you have any questions before we go. And right after the some kind of a flyover behind me, that's where you have Meanwhile Garden. So that's where the building was, the building with the last murder victim, the one in the suitcase. Pesky weather, yeah. Thanks, Herbie. Thanks everyone for coming today. Let me show you my face again. Let me know if you have any questions about anything before we go. Oh, thanks, Barbara. That's great to hear. Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks, Natalie. If any of you dropped me a little tip on PayPal or buy me a coffee, that's very, very much appreciated. I don't really see them live when I'm in the chat, so I can't thanks you personally in the chat, but that's very much appreciated. It is thanks to your generosity that I can keep doing those tours and do some new research and all that. If you want to see a bit more of me, I will do another Jack the Ripper at some point before Halloween. I know you won't like it, but I might try to do it vertical. I just need to know if because you know, with the vertical, you go in the vertical feed. Last time I tried with doing that on YouTube, it didn't work. I wasn't visible on the vertical feed. I don't know why. So I'd like to try again. It's not going to be something I'll do regularly, but I just want to try again just to see, because being in that feed can increase visibility, and we could have some new people joining. Thanks, Samantha. Thanks everyone for coming. If you were completely new to me, if you've made it that far into the video, and if you've not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe, because those lives, they're very easy to miss, and then you end up watching the replay, which is fun as well, but it's nicer to be there in the chat with us. So make sure you subscribe. You might even want to hit the little bell icon to make sure you get a notification when I go live. And it's starting to rain again, so perfect timing. Well, not really, because I'll get soaked on the bicycle, but at least I don't have to get the gimbal wet. Right, thank you guys for coming today. Have a great evening or a great morning, or whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world. And hopefully I'll see you probably next week. If not, in November, we've got a lot to look forward to. We've got Guy Fawkes, we've got Hungary, we've got Dublin. I've got only one scheduled so far, but I'll probably do a couple more tours in Ireland. So there's a lot to look forward to in November. and then that'll be time for Christmas lights again. So there's a lot to look forward to on my channel. Anyway, have a great one. See you soon. Bye bye.